Welcome back to Spoiling Movies. My name is Chris, and I'm going to tell you all about a movie I just watched, and I'm going to do a review of it. There will be spoilers. I'm going to go through most of the beats of the movie, and I'm going to tell you my opinion about it at the end. This week's movie is From Beyond the Grave. Before we get started with the spoiling of the movie, I'll give you my pre-spoiler opinion. This movie is old, but it's fun. It's quirky. It's British. It's one of those it's like a five-part thing, so it's almost like a mini version of like Twilight Zone or Outer Limits kind of thing. But it's very old, very low budget, but it's very like it's almost campy and it's fun. I think it's a fun Halloween type movie. You get a few little goofy little short movies in it. You got one movie, you got five movies. I say go for it. It's a fun little thing, so recommend from me. Now on with the spoilers. Guy walks into an antique shop and creepy old owner says, "What can I do for you?" And he's like, "I'm thinking about getting this mirror, old school Victorian Gothic looking mirror." He sort of manipulates the guy and tells him like, "Oh no, this has got damage here and there. Like this isn't worth what you're telling me. So I'll give you this much." And he's like, "Well, okay." Guy takes the creepy mirror home, puts it above the mantle of the fireplace, and he's having like a party. Bunch of people show up and they're like, "Why don't we do a seance?" Because all, socialite party situations just immediately go into a seance. And they're like, "You don't know how to do a seance." He's like, "Oh, you bet I do." So they do the goofy seance. Everybody's closing their eyes, and the flame, they're going around the table, and the flame keeps going. And it's kind of a cool effect. It shoots blue flames out of it. At the end of the party, all the people go home. In the middle of the night, he's sleeping, and he like wakes up because he hears some noises. And in the mirror, there's like like a bunch of smoke in the mirror, and a creepy dude's face, like ghost face, just fucking hanging out in the smoky mirror. Somehow the ghost like takes the guy into a dream thing where he like the creepy ghost man is like physically there and he like stabs him, but like he wakes up like it never really happened. Mirror ghost tells him, "You must feed me." So he goes out and gets himself a prostitute, brings her back to the flat, and this is all very, very British. Everybody's got big old like Beatles looking shit and giant sideburns and shit. So he kills the prostitute, and he wake up the next day and he's got blood all over himself, and the mirror ghost again is like, "Feed me," and then he says, "Blood until I am fulfilled." The guy's like, "No, I don't want to do this." He says, "You must," and he starts like fucking with his head. He's like getting inside his head or whatever. He meets another girl, brings her back, kills another girl. He's just going on for a while. Every day he's got to get more blood for this thing. Ghost guy says, "Soon I will be able to walk in daylight." And the guy's like, "Fuck you," and he throws the thing and breaks the mirror. But then just like he turns away, and like a minute later the mirror is fixed again. There's this one girl that he really likes, and he's like, "No, I don't want to kill her, not her." The neighbor guy downstairs has blood dripping from his ceiling, so he goes up there and he's like, "What's going on here?" And he sees that the guy has dug up underneath the floorboards, like underneath the couch or whatever, there's like a sack with blood, and there's blood everywhere and shit. And he kills the neighbor guy because he found out the secret. So I guess that was enough blood for what he needed to be back in the real world. So he's now in the dude's apartment flat, in British flat. His lust for blood has been sated, and now he may walk among the living. So he walks over to the guy that owns the place, and he's like, "You've freed me. Now I can make you live forever," or whatever. He's like, "Just walk into this sword." And he like has the sword, and the guy just walks toward him slowly and like impales himself on the sword. And then we go through many different tenets over a period of time. Eventually, some people want to do a seance again in the apartment. So they start doing the seance, and we see in the background the guy that owned the apartment is now Smoky Ghost Man in the mirror. End of first story. A man in a suit walks into the same antique shop that the other guy did. So he tries to get this little war medal thing, and he says, "I used to be in the war and I'd like to purchase this." And he's like, "You have to have a certificate proving you were in the war to get this thing." And he's like, "Oh, well, I'll come back another time." That guy leaves. He grabs the war medal and he goes out. There's a little backstory with this businessman who steals the war medal. He has an ungrateful family. His wife is a bitch and she's always talking bad about him, and the kid has to hear them screaming at each other and fighting all the time. There is a man that is selling matches and shoelaces, and the businessman sees him on the street, and he's nice to him. He's like, "I'll take some shoelaces. I think I'd like a match." So he's helping the guy out, And he talks to him about being in the war, salutes him. The matches and shoelaces man invites business guy over to his house to eat dinner, and he says, sure, why not? Goes to his place and he meets his daughter Emily. Emily is this very strange, kind of quiet girl, but just sort of does everything that Matches and Shoelaces guy says to do, and bring our guests some cake, and do this and do this. So he has a lovely time having dinner and hanging out with those people, and he goes back home and he's back to his miserable bitch of a wife who, tells him what a piece of shit he is, and blah blah blah, and he's like, enough of this, get out. But there's somebody following that bitch wife, randomly taking pictures of her. At one point, she's on the bus. Person who we don't know who it is cuts off a little snippet of the wife's hair. So they have dinner once again. Businessman and Shoelace Matches Man and Emily, and there's more cake and more food and more pleasant conversation and just having a good time. Matches and Shoelaces Man is like, that wife of yours sounds like she's no good. She's not, just talking down on you all the time, and it doesn't seem right to me. Matches and Shoelaces Man leaves the house, leaves Emily and Businessman alone. Emily starts singing a really creepy song in the background, and at some point she says the most British thing. She says, we knows what we knows. I don't remember what question he asked her, but we knows what we knows. It's like, that is so fucking British. So Emily's like, I wish to serve you, businessman guy. That woman of yours, she sucks. I'm much better. Screen goes black, and they wake up. He wakes up next to Emily, and he's still asleep. But Emily gets up out of their bed, and she puts on a black cloak, and she leaves once again. So next time Businessman comes back over to that place, Emily's got a big black candle that she lights on a table with a little doll that looks like his bitch wife, and it's got like her hair on it and shit, and it's a voodoo doll. And I knew it, because she was about to poke some shit into it, and she's like, I need you to tell me. I can only do it if you tell me to do it. And he's like, well, you should do what you want. And she's like, I just want to serve you. And he's like, well, then you should do what you want. And she's like, okay. So she fucking cuts just a little piece of the little doll's neck, and the doll starts bleeding a little bit. And he's like, there's no way that worked. And she's like, go home and find out. He goes home and finds out that the wife is dead on the staircase, just crazy. And the kid's up there like, ooh. Emily and Matches and Shoelaces Man show up at the door, and they're like, we told you it would work. Now you guys should get married. Let's get you guys married now that you're no longer with bitch wife. So they have a little wedding ceremony, and Matches Man is there, Businessman, Emily, and the kid. As they're bringing the knife down to cut the cake, it goes through the groom's head, and the little thing starts bleeding, and then the Businessman guy has blood on his head, and he goes down. Emily and Matchstick Man and the kid are there, and they look down at the kid, and they're like, we're here to serve you, whatever you want, kid. That's it. The kid just wanted his parents to die because they both seemed like shitty people and they were making him miserable. End of that story. Back into the antique shop. A man is wanting to purchase a little box, like a snuff box or something. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's one, and he sees the price tag, and he's like, let me see this other one. And it's like, that's, this one's way too costly. So he just switches the price tags, dupes the antique owner, and he gets the snuff box. And on his way home or out of town, he's on a train, and this weird-looking woman who's dressed very strange and has a funny kind of like Julia Child's voice. She's got kind of a voice like this. I'm Madame Olaf. Oh, it seems you've got a little elemental on your shoulder there. Oh, it's dug itself into you pretty good there. I should give you my card. You don't want that nasty little thing to be So this lady's like a clairvoyant or something, and she wants to help the dude if things get bad with his little invisible shoulder friend or whatever. So he's like, that seems crazy, whatever, I'm sure nothing's going on. He gets home, and his shoulder's all cricked up weird, and the wife's like, yeah, what, that's weird, and he's like, oh, I don't know what that is. And the dog starts barking at him and stuff, and they go to bed, and the wife is like, oh, stop it, stop, ow, what are you doing? And it's like, she's like, you were trying to choke me, and he's like, I wasn't even touching you. He was turned the other way. He wasn't doing anything to her, but she thinks that he was. So he's like, obviously some weird shit's going on here. So he calls on Madame Olaf. Madame Olaf shows up at the house, and he's like, oh, well, I guess it's time to get started. Get rid of that little bugger. So she sits the dude down, and she starts massaging on his shoulders and saying goofy shit and kind of singing and say, get out of here, you son of a bitch. Away! She says, away! And the demon thing is throwing shit, breaking shit, it's invisible, it's knocking bookshelves over and shit. The man thinks everything is back to normal. He walks upstairs and then immediately falls back down the stairs. The wife walks out of a room and she's in a weird voice. She says, "You denied me life." And then, like, stabs the guy, and demon is inside the wife, I guess, and she's like, "Life!" And so now, demon thing is inside wife. She opens up the front door of their house and walks out into the world fully full of demon. End of that act. Another guy shows up at the antique shop, sees this big, crazy, gargoyle-y demon door, and he's like, "I'd like that demon door." And he's like, "That'll be 50 pounds or whatever." And he's like, "Will you take 40? He's like, "Okay, I guess so." Gives the guy some money. Guy walks away to get some change or something, but he leaves the drawer open, and the guy switches out the 20s or whatever for ones. So he only gives the guy like 4 or 5 ones or whatever. And the guy comes back and sees it, and he's like, Guy takes crazy demon door back to his house, and he uses it as like a cupboard door. Maybe not cupboard, but like opens up into like a little closet thing. And he's just using it as like a regular door. One time, he opens the door, and there's like crazy blue light coming out of it, and there's like old shit. There's a room back there where it should be just a closet, but it's like a big blue old Victorian room kind of thing, and there's cobwebs and shit everywhere. He sees that one of the door handles in the weird room starts like jiggling. Somebody's trying to get in, and he starts freaking out. So he like runs back. It opens the demon door, goes back into his house in the real world. And he's talking to his wife and telling her, "No, I saw something in there. That's crazy." She's like, "Darling, oh darling, you're just seeing things, darling." A lot of darlings. The guy goes back into the crazy room, and there's a guy's voice in there that's telling him stuff about witchcraft and evil, and this room needs to eat souls. And the voice is actually a guy that's in the room, some weird, big bearded, curly looking fuck. And he's like, "I'm part of this room, and we must have souls, and we would like a woman. We need a woman. We need to eat souls and woman." Regular man runs back out of the room into the demon room into the regular house. Him and the wife can't get out of their own house. The doors are locked and shit, and they're like, "What do we do?" Guy gets the woman, and he takes her back into creepy blue room. Crazy Victorian bearded man is trying to get him, and they're like, the only way out of this situation is to kill that door, because the door is part of the room, and the room is a part of that dude. So they take a fucking battle axe thing, and they start smashing the fucking evil gargoyle door, and the door starts bleeding, and then the weird man starts bleeding, and then the room itself starts fucking crumbling, and shit's going. The old guy is like down on the ground, and then he starts deteriorating, and it's like an old school video effect where it's like one image that fades into like another image and then another until he's just like bones, and then he's dust, and then the dust blows away. End of that act. So there's been this thief hanging out in the alleyway right in front of this antique shop. The thief finally decides to go into the antique shop, and he tries to stick up the old man working in there. He says, give me some shit. Give me money and shit." And then the guy like trips backward and falls into like a coffin thing, and it like closes and like locks on him. And then old man walks past him in the coffin thing, opens up the door, looks right at the camera, and he said, "Do come in. You're welcome anytime." And that was the whole movie. That last act is very, very short. I liked it quite a bit. It was better than I thought it would be. It's kind of silly, kind of goofy, kind of, it's old school. There's British accents. There's old practical effects. I love good old-fashioned practical effects and stuff. And it was fun. It was kind of charming, kind of goofy, kind of silly. It's not like particularly scary, but it's like, I don't know, I feel like it'd be kind of good for, maybe it would spook some little kids. It'd be like I don't know, maybe you don't want that to be like their first scary movie, but that'd be the kind of thing that maybe a young teen would enjoy, but even older people can enjoy it as well. I thought it was pretty fun. I recommend it. I think you guys check it out if you're okay with old goofy movies. Anyway, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Leave me a comment. Let me know how you're doing, and happy spooky season. And it's kind of a gargoyle-y, but at the end of the day, and he's like, "Every day I'm bludgeoning." I was trying to go with like a blood thing. He wasn't really bludgeoning. He was more like stabbing him. And anyway, I mean, Emily's like, what does she fucking do? They got a nice wedding cake with the little groom and bride and groom, like Julie. The fuck is that lady's name? Like, oh, he's really dug himself in there, hasn't he? Even further than before. And then there's the old, and a lot of Darlings and Daleks, a lot of exterminate. I don't know, something like that.